A guy that helps us learn it stuff is Blaine Fowler. Uncle B, what up?
What's up, guys?
How's
I
it
miss
going?
you guys so bad. I need to come down there and just be in the studio with you so people can quit counting the beeps on the phone.
Yeah. That is a real thing. Okay, we're typically, when the beep happens, we're typically on TV showing a full screen graphic of you and your nice hair. We count out loud, we put fingers in the air to indicate and keep track of that. This is a real
so
thing.
what is it? What does it do? I don't even know how it happens.
I don't know either.
Yeah, so when you don't pay your cell phone bill, Uncle, on time, they tap in.
We don't want to pub any cell phone companies, but my cell phone company is the biggest cell phone company. We'll just say that.
Oh, wow. Verizon. Okay, cool.
So who knows what's going on? Who knows?
Today's Twitter question is this, Blaine. In which BYU football offensive position group are you the most confident? We just had the post-spring depth chart. We've been looking at it. What do you think?
Well, I like to look at depth and not just the starters, because obviously the starting quarterback is really, really good. But I would go with the wide receiver group because I can go 7 or 8 people deep and have confidence in that 7th or 8th person. And that's big time for me because of the way injuries happen and all of that. That's the group I'm most confident in right now, that they will produce on a consistent basis regardless of injuries for an entire season. I really like that group. And I mean, you think about it. Get down to the guys that people aren't even talking about, like the Kurt Hendersons and the Colby Pearsons. And I like those guys. I think that they're solid football players and can produce. And we haven't talked much about Trey Dye playing out of the slot, Mitch Juergens, Taron Houck. And I haven't even mentioned Nick Kurtz or the elite Mitch Matthews yet, right?
Uncle B, that was going to be my next question. We've been talking about this word elite so often. This was the first time that I heard about it this morning, so forgive me if you guys had this conversation earlier, but do you think that this group can be elite?
Well, I think there's some talent there. So Blackman brings them some speed that they've never had there. So if we're talking elite, we're talking like, hey, is this the top 3% of players in the country kind of a thing?
Yep.
Yeah, against the country. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and so he has the kind of speed that the top players in the country have. So Blackman brings them that component, but they haven't had very often.
We need to see that more, Blaine. We did not see him
absolutely.
vertically hardly at all.
Stretch in the field. Absolutely. And so Mitch Matthews, we call him elite because his athleticism at his size is very, very unique. Like, you could compare him with receivers at Ohio State or at USC, a guy that's that big at 6'6", that can run with the kind of speed he has and that kind of vertical jump and athleticism. He's very, very unique. And so you can interchange that, elite and unique. He's a unique talent. And the thing that I think puts him into that elite category now is, as we watched him in spring ball, he's really paid attention to those little things that get a receiver open. Just a lean here, putting his hand in the right place there, running perfect routes. So you combine that with a guy that has a very unique set of skills athletically, and now you make him a guy that pays attention to the little things. Now that's why we're calling him elite Mitch Matthews, because he has a chance to be one of those guys that gets drafted. I heard you guys talking about that earlier, as a wide receiver out of BYU, which hasn't happened very often.
He's like Liam Neeson. He has a unique set of skills. Blaine Fowler, Uncle B, with 0 beeps, joins us on BYU Sports Nation so far. We're clean. No hitter so far.
You guys have to tell me when it beeps, because then we got to get to the bottom of this.
We'll let you know.
Let's talk quarterbacks. My pick was receivers for this. Brian picked quarterback. So obviously Taysom Hill, everyone knows how dynamic he can be. Maybe the most athletic BYU quarterback ever, and you played with some of the best. In fact, let's go there. How does he compare to the guys you played with, which were the best in BYU history?
Well, he's most like Steve Young athletically, but he's bigger and stronger than Steve Young. Now, I'm not going to say he's faster. People talk about his crazy speed, but Steve Young, like in a 40, I'll put Steve Young with Taysom Hill in a 40.
That'd be fun to watch.
There was a time when Steve Young, when he had left the Bucs and went to San Francisco, when they were in their mini camp period. And if I remember right, he's the second or third fastest player on the Niners when they timed these guys.
Wow.
So that includes guys like Eric Wright and Merton Hanks and we're talking about some of the fastest guys in the NFL. Steve Young, from a flat-out 40 perspective, I'll put him against Taysom. But Taysom is way bigger and stronger, like not even close. Taysom is freakish when it comes to the combination of his speed and his strength. Quarterbacks just aren't that big and strong. We talked about this a few weeks ago. He had the highest front squat poundage when they did their front squat test way back a month or so ago.
Yep.
Tian Caroma was second. So, so he came in and just squatted more than anybody else on the team. What quarterback does that? That's crazy.
That is crazy. Blaine, me and Jaron, we talked about Taysom learning his lesson, so to speak, with his injuries and making sure that he protects himself a little bit better. I think that he learned his lesson. I think it really snapped this last season. What's your thoughts on that?
Poor way to phrase that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I agree with you, Brian, because one injury, okay, that was a fluke. 2 injuries, ooh, man, now there's a pattern here. Maybe I need to be a little more careful. I think that it hit home, and they're both kind of fluke things, right? But quarterbacks running around get hit different than running backs who are going in with a low pad level, aren't getting hit in the legs, they're dishing out punishment.
Yep.
He just runs a little bit different, and so he's got to be careful. I think the other thing that hit home with him, he watched the stretch run for BYU's offense last year, and when that ball was being distributed around by Christian Stewart, and a lot of people were involved in the offense, it was a really good offense. And so he's a really smart kid. So he's watching that, and he has to, in his head, go, wait a minute here. If they can be that good without my run threat in there, why don't we run an offense like that, and I occasionally run to keep defenses honest, and now how are you going to defend us? Mm-hmm. And so I think he understands that too. So you combine what they were doing down the stretch and what Robert and I learned about this receiver group and running back group, and as that line got better, they were a good drop-back passing team. If they can continue that, and now you add this run element that Taysom can bring in bits and pieces, then it becomes an undefendable offense. You just try to slow it down a little bit. And so I think the prospects, and when you look at that 2 deep that you guys have been talking about, keep him healthy, be more effective in the drop-back pass game, use him in spots running the football, and I would hate to be a D coordinator going against this offense in this fall.
Blaine Fowler, 0 beeps so far, is on BYU Sports Nation. Taysom, obviously, the starter, and then after that, it looks like Tanner Mangum's been penciled in as the heir apparent in all ways because of the Elite 11 and whatnot. Yet, I've heard 2 different coaches come on our set, Papinga and Beck, and say they prefer a high school player versus a return missionary physically in a season. With that said, Bo Hodge is going to come to BYU out of high school, Tanner Mangum off a mission in June. Is there any way Bo Hodge is the backup, you think, out of fall?
Well, and then the other question I have is what happens with McCoy Hill? Is he healthy when he comes in the fall? I'll tell you what I don't want to see. I don't want to see a freshman pressed into action early in the season, whether they're a return missionary freshman or a freshman out of high school.
Hopefully that's not the case.
And here's the problem with that. I don't care how talented you are. I don't care if you're the number 1 rated quarterback in the country coming out of high school. It's a completely different game from a mental aspect. Okay, you can make all the throws and you can run around. I know what it looks like as a freshman dropping back there, and people are running all over the place, and it's not clear to you when you're a freshman. And as that season progresses, things slow down more and more and more. And now by the time you get into your sophomore year, you're going, oh, this isn't that tough. I get this. I know where the ball needs to go. Instead of thinking through what you're doing, everything comes natural. That's when you want to put those guys out on the field. You put them out there and just you hope they're athletic, because mentally they're not going to make the reads you want them to read as fast as you want them to. The risk you have is that you actually set their progress back a bit by putting them out there early. And so, man, I want Taysom to stay healthy more than anything. I have a lot of confidence in how good the young quarterbacks are, but the last thing you want is for them to play meaningful minutes when a game is on the line because they have to play because somebody's hurt. That's not a good situation.
I only want to see Mangum and Hodge and even McCoy Hill, the other Hill, against Wagner. That's the only game I want to see him. Let's finish up with this, Blaine. The NFL draft's this weekend. Who and how many does BYU get drafted this weekend?
I'd like to see 2. I think Alani has a good chance just because of his length and size combined with his numbers. it's hard to say now because then the rest of these guys, it's going to depend on whether or not the people feel they can play special teams, right? And so I like Sky Polde making a team after his ridiculous pro day.
As
right?
a free agent?
Yeah, I think as a free agent he makes it, but you're talking about draft picks. I think Jordan Leslie's the other guy that has a chance, and I think the reason I think he has a chance because I believe there's teams out there that go, okay, he can be a productive receiver. His numbers in his pro day were better than expected. And so can he play special teams? And if he can play special teams and somebody believes in that, then he's got a chance to go in the 6th or 7th round as well. And it would be good because it's so huge for recruiting to be able to bring kids in and say, you want to get drafted? You come here. We got players getting drafted. And there's been a problem for BYU the last couple of years in the number of draft picks compared to the teams that they recruit head-to-head with. So I think, too, I'll tell you who I think is going to make a team. I think Paul Lasike is going to make a team. I don't know if he gets drafted, but as a free agent, because I think there's a place for a guy that can be a road grader and can also play special teams. So that's another guy that can play special teams. So it's likely that they get 2, and then I think there's some free agent guys that are going to stick in the league this year, and that helps your recruiting as well.
Yeah, that'll help. Uncle B, we appreciate the time. Thanks.
All right, guys, good to talk to you. I miss you.
I miss you more.
Miss your Musk. We'll see you, Blaine.
Okay, see you guys.